61 months. Chapter 2.
Departure. Damn, nothing clears your head in the morning like the sound of someone yelling in your ear, thought Jack as he stared into Carter's eyes whilst running on the treadmill. Realizing it's actually quite difficult to continue to run while staring down your enemy, he suffered further enlightenment when his shoe suddenly gripped the side of the machine and twisted him around promptly. He reacted swiftly but clumsily, hobbling on like a frog with a dead leg. Detecting indignity, the machine beeped, and Jack slowed to a walk, then to an eventual silent and even more embarrassingly awkward stop. In the uncomfortable pause, Jack pondered a long controversial theory regarding the universe and the possibility that it exists in a multi-state or multiverse. The theory goes that every possible universe exists simultaneously, and that we traverse these endless universes as we make decisions and change our minds. We control our own destiny not with a joystick, instead with our need for cake at midnight, or that impulse to arrive at a junction and turn left instead of right because the flowers are prettier on the left. So what kind of a glitch in this wild theoretical multiverse caused the anomalous blister of 2 Carters in Jack's personal universe? If only he could return to that left turn and go right instead. Jack could deal with a single Carter at a time, either the husband or the wife, but not 2 of them at once. He'd be willing to accept the poor life decisions he'd made might well explain the existence of one. But what kind of hellish deed had he done which brought forth the wrath of a dynamic duo? Joking around one day, Bob named Carter the husband the irrepressible digital squid because he seemed to have his technical tentacles everywhere, regardless of Bob's effort to stop him. Carter, the wife, Bob named the unstoppable sadomasochist machine because she only seemed to care about inflicting pain. Presumably she enjoyed pain too, being married to the irrepressible digital squid. These names later got shortened to USM and IDS and were often used to obscure the subject of an awkward conversation. Carter USM broke the conversational ice. Look, I'm just saying you guys need to be focused. You and I both know what happens when minds wander off. That's why I hate all that music bullshit you do. I don't care what the shrinks say about deep space travel and needing hobbies. It's crap. You should execute. More training, more study, more alertness. She paused and her voice changed into a more sarcastic and nasal timbre. Pickering must have had a lovely wardrobe by the time he got to Titan. Jack scowled. Look, I don't give a monkey's what you or your lesser half think of my hobby, but picking on Pickering, that's low. The guy's not even here to defend himself, and you, stingy gits, only supplied him with 3 balls of wool. That's got your signature all over it, for sure. Carter squinted disapprovingly. 3 is all he could afford. He used up the entire year's hobby budget on 3 balls of custom-made wool. Yes, wool. Yes, custom-made. Yes, entire budget. Himself showed me the invoice. What kind of hyperallergies did Pickering think he had? Oh, I know, it's all about those nanos, but seriously, it's for a hobby, not a fashion award. The 3 H's we most despise: health and safety, human rights, hobbies. We feel they're taken far too seriously. Pickering deserves the needle, end of story. Whenever a Carter spoke of we, they meant all Carters and nobody else. It took Jack a little while to figure this out, along with their other habit of calling each other himself or herself. Carter IDS was the worst for this, often referring to herself as his metaphoric sword or dagger. It helped him fend off all too common physical threats to his person. He didn't ever get physical, nor she herself involved in his voyeurism or technical stuff. They seamlessly overlapped into we. The partnership often perplexed Carter noobs. The short, skinny, nerdy guy gets to snuggle up to the tall, beautiful Amazon. Really? They'd gasp open-mouthed. Jack finally opened his mouth to speak in retort, but a loudspeaker interrupted his steam-driven train of thought.
Okay, girls, I want you all in here ASAP. We need some quality time together.
Jack silently snatched his towel and hurriedly headed for the shower room. Carter hissed in disapproval. You're not even done. Himself must be right. You must have been a premature baby. She jumped on the treadmill and sprinted the remainder of Jack's scheduled quarter-mile. Jack arrived at the shower room and noticed Clarence was already there, an immense dark shadow in its patterned glass underbelly. Clarence slowly slid along the 2 adjacent parallel compartments whilst Jack removed his one-piece and waited. Being showered here felt to Jack like being digested by a large glass snake. Jack repositioned himself to proceed, standing in the center of the rolling floor. His reward was to be sprayed with a fragrant chemical melange and to be forced to listen to a female voice designed to radiate calm. It failed. He grunted and stepped forward on the conveyor, leaving the final stage drying machine huffing and puffing in disapproval. Slightly down, he continued to walk toward the exit door and could see Clarence up ahead through its frosted porthole window. A freshly scented one-piece swung out on the spring-loaded arm and smacked Jack square in the face. "Arr, damn!" he squawked as he regained his balance. He pulled the one-piece free of the hanger and stepped inside its rubberized legs and soles. He stood tall and raised his arms whilst the one-piece buzzed with an electric hum. It paused for a second, then quickly rolled up his body and snapped tight round his wrists and neck. Wrapped up, Jack took a deep breath. Putting on the one-piece always felt like the last irritating procedural step to undertake before doing the stupidly dangerous thing he was about to do. Much like the checking of parachute straps, the checking of bungee clamps, the checking of air in your scuba tanks, checking the seals, and the fit of your one-piece meant there's no turning back. "Suck it in, let's do it," he muttered. All done, time for that briefing and to get the hell away from the multi-headed Carter beast. The office of CTO Jeff Francis looked like something from a TV soap opera. A set to impress up to the point at which the camera zooms in a little too close and reveals the not-so-fine details. A huge wooden desk gave a grandiose tycoon introduction to cheaply painted walls and trailer park furnishings. Clarence stood in fair proportion to the large desk, calm and focused. Everyone else, on entering the room, found themselves looking shiftily around, confused, as if subconsciously aware they'd somehow been scaled down by comparison. This happened every meeting without fail. Jeff enjoyed making people feel small. Clarence was a sugar candy gift in that respect. Jeff loved the uncomfortable edge the experience provided, and so he'd invite Clarence to come closer, but no touching. No finger grease, no sneezes, no earwax, only good, clean, airy distance allowed, at least 6 inches of it. Nobody touches his wood. Jeff did a mental head count, cleared his throat, and proceeded with the most deflating 2 words any astronaut can hear. "Launch delays. Sorry, people, you'll just have to find more ways to waste my money sitting around until the weather either clears naturally or we attempt to fix it." Launch delays. Bob stared into his latte, twirling it around with a kid's curly, crazy straw. "You know, there are many theories about the universe and how parts of it are missing. I wonder where those parts are. Did someone drink them through a straw, as I do this tepid coffee?" Clarence simply nodded as if doing more would upset the balance of something even bigger than him. Bob looked at him intently as if to draw out the reluctant truth from his wise elder. Clarence conceded, "I don't think God has crazy straws. I'm just looking forward to getting out of here, man. There's no place like space." Bob perked up. "Wow, that should totally be on a t-shirt, Clarence. No place, it would be like a monkey, no, a fish. Oh, I know, a place. Yes. Do you see what I did there? It's a fish." "Yeah," muttered Clarence. Bob continued, "Then if I put an exclamation mark in front of the fish, programmers will giggle because that's the not operator." "Yeah," muttered Clarence. "And seriously, they'd be okay that technically it's not fish, but it is no place. Oh, I'm sure they'd get it. Trust me, they'd get it. Under that, we could have a, like a like button." "Like a like?" quizzed Clarence. "Yeah, like a like button. Well, not an actual like button, a representation, like space." "Oh, I love it." "Yeah," grunted Clarence. "No place like space." "No," grunted Clarence. "What, you don't like it?" exclaimed Bob. "I was agreeing, there is no place. With an I." Bob enthused. "Great, then let's make a start. This could well be my favorite t-shirt." CTO Jeff Francis didn't have a favorite t-shirt, but he did have a favorite button on his favorite machine. He pressed it, sitting behind his favorite enormous wooden desk.
Due to adverse weather conditions, launch delay has been defined as 24 hours from the 3rd beep.
A second button bore the weight of Jeff's pudgy finger.
We've arranged a final meeting in the main hall in 15 minutes. 5 minutes, staff.
Jeff looked over the top of his imposing desk. It seemed to fill his horizon nicely, at least half his universe whilst he sat behind it, the other half more awkwardly occupied by his wife and kids, his dog, and his love of rare and collectible Osmond CDs. He was so proud of his music collection, he considered his taste eclectic and highbrow. The dog, the wife, and the kids displeased him too often with their bills, fees, and lack of financial independence. Ongoing expenses made him irritable. He much preferred the outlay of a good investment in comforting music or a solid, dependable piece of furniture. He opened a drawer, pleased by the smoothness of its action and enamored of its sturdy weight. It couldn't be so perfect, surely. He closed it and opened it again. "Oh, Donnie," he mumbled with a quiver in his voice. He glanced around the room shiftily, conscious of the need for total secrecy and potential discovery of this most forbidden pleasure. On the third ecstatic pull, the drawer remained extended open. Inside the drawer stood one half-full tin of furniture polish and one half-torn blue duster. Jeff pulled them out and proceeded to clean off all the invisible fingerprints and marks brought about by the intensity and proximity of employees that day. He didn't do things by halves. Polishing the surface back to luster was so cathartic he felt the same way when he lost a pilot and had to tidy up the mess of loved ones. He felt the same way when some new technology didn't quite work as planned, and so he'd need to find the people responsible and pull their funding. He felt the same way when he'd authorize a payment to a government representative to thank them for their favorable advocacy. Done and dusted, he put away his weapons of choice. He stood and slowly thrusted the drawer closed with his pinstripe-suited outer thigh. Donnie seemed shiny and happy, which made Jeff feel happy. He savored the moment, then left for the main hall, whistling Long-Haired Lover from Liverpool. 24 little hours. Carter sat neatly perched on the edge of her stool in the canteen, towards the back of the main hall, her favorite spot from which to watch the world go by, drinking her fruit juice and pondering her future. From here she could witness the general routine of the droids going about their business or gaze out of the tall reinforced glass windows into the world beyond. The launch site appeared as far away as her mind today, and the distant flashes of clouds, being seated, reflected her darker shades of grey mood. In many ways she felt as trapped as the guys she tortured daily. She knew of empathy's dangers, and her husband's constant reminders to be tough and cruel kept her focused on what she had to do. Be strong, be mean, be tough, or else these guys will struggle and fail. Yet she felt sorry for Jack in particular. It must be hard to have a family and be given little or no option to earn a living. Music? Right, nobody pays for music anymore, just the rare old vinyl that idiot boss of theirs obsessively collected. Popular music, well, presumably it's called popular music, because songs just pop up from nowhere and vanish again. Here, then gone, practically in the same breath. There's no longevity because nobody cares who made each song. Few artists can sustain a run of popular songs now there's no industry to speak of. Not like there used to be historically. Himself had told her all about musical culture and history, and she'd half listened. Remembering a King Richard of Branson, he sounded like he might be interesting. She mused for a while about being paid to sit around and play music. What an interesting idea. Children's stories always had some kind of reference to a minstrel, wandering, probably drunk. If it pleases the king, she sighed. Oh, it does. Wait, what? Inquired a voice from behind. Well, I was just thinking about Jack, she replied without turning around. Not about me, then, responded Will, patting Carter on the shoulder. Not a chance, she snapped. The only thing you have that I'm interested in is that little bit of extra effort on the lat machine. Will innocently tucked both hands behind his back. Fair play, madam. You displease the king. But then you always did by choosing that slimeball of a husband. So what's with the Jack schmoozing? Really, Will? I was simply thinking about the choices we all have and make, our careers, and how this kind of work is no place for a guy with a young family. Jack has a choice. He's not a lost cause like you. I'm worried there's another angle to his signing up for this trip. I'll be interested to see where he heads. Well, that's his business. He can go wherever his nose takes him once he's out of the range of your husband's tonsils and Jeff's duster. He's actually good at this stuff. He does have a knack of finding great seams and sucking up all those big bucks. Maybe he'll head out to where that weirdo pal of his vanished, suggested Will. Carter sighed. That's my fear. I might come across as being a cold cow, but you guys are just my idiot younger brothers who need a whipping. We have 5 teams, and you guys are the only ones I'm sorry to see go each time. With you as the head idiot, what could possibly go wrong? Just do me a favor and make sure Jack keeps away from Titan. We don't want him looking for Pickering. The last thing he needs right now is an invisible friend. Will grinned. I'll do that for you. Y'all just keep on wearing those tight-fitting uniforms. All this mention of a whipping and you being sisterly is quite the turn-on for a backward old southern boy. Carter rolled her eyes. Give me a break, Will. Aside from the fact that you're a 32-year-old boy, my intuition tells me you've never been south of New Jersey. Your meta tells me you somehow fluked an IQ of 131 on 3 lab-controlled occasions. That's the same result, backward or forwards, and your mama tells me you're full of it. Will smiled. Damn, Mama always warns off the hot chicks. His smile developed a puzzled disposition. Oh, so I appear to be cursed by palindromes. Call Dr. Awkward. Oh wait, hang up. Here comes David and Goliath. Striding side by side with Bob bursting into a small catch-up run, occasionally he and Clarence arrived. What the hell are you guys wearing? Is that a fish? Will exclaimed. Jack be nimble. Jack was somehow last to arrive at the conference table, housed in the small office toward the back of the main hall. Jeff was quick to address. Thank you all for arriving at whatever time you please. Now if you'd kindly take a seat, I will begin my meeting. The lighting in the room dimmed and the surface of the conference table changed from its dark wood appearance to a black void. Carter sat on the opposite end to his boss, his wife to his left. He made a swift and complex gesture with his index finger on the surface of the table. Everyone else but Clarence simply touched the tabletop in front of them, and a personalized welcome message appeared. Good. Looks like we're all... Clarence, could you please touch the table? Carter inquired with an air of frustration. Clarence hated the table. It always welcomed him in what it felt would be the optimal choice for his particular lineage. Clarence didn't care enough about his own origins to know if the table's intelligent design was indeed accurate. He just knew to even make a guess it either must be snooping around in his medical recs, or it had to make some kind of epidermal tonal judgment. Carter, you made a racist table, he sighed. I don't want anything to do with it. It's racist. I'd like to register a formal complaint. Carter rolled his eyes. Clarence, we've been through this many times now. There's nothing racist about greeting you in the language your ancestors might have spoken, even if you do not choose to learn or take part. Your ignorance of your own culture is not my problem. Now touch, please, he hissed. Carter took umbrage with Clarence bleeding right now because of the embarrassing presence of his boss. Clarence hissed right back and scowled at Carter. I don't like you or your racist table. I protest in the strongest terms. In order to determine the so-called appropriate welcome message, what kind of privacy guidelines are you flagrantly ignoring? How do I opt out? Jeff Francis, CTO, looked around the room for signs of life beyond the two crazy horses arguing over a table. Much as he sided with Carter's brushing off of this non-issue like lint on a suit sleeve, he felt slightly unnerved by the thought of anything racist or purple in his energy and color-neutral meeting room. Carter sensed Jeff's tolerance level nearing and quickly continued. Listen to yourself for a moment, Clarence. You're acting like a petulant child. It's embarrassing. Kindly stop it forthwith. Or we'll just have to treat you like a 2-year-old. Your behavior is deserving of it. Clarence scowled. Really, Carter? He raised his considerable eyebrows and scratched his nose, or so it first appeared. Actually, he picked his nose and pulled out a green elastic monster. The other attendees watched in silent disgust and frozen horror as he pressed it firmly into the surface of the table and touched a little circle of green sliminess. The table burst into life under the translucent sludge. Touched, grinned Clarence. That's truly disgusting, exclaimed Carter. Clarence just smiled. Jeff intervened. Okay, children, you've made your point, or your mark, or your mess, as the case may be. Carter, I think the big guy has a point. Clean it up and get rid of those welcome messages. You can personally clean the table, too. Whilst I'm in this bad mood, I feel I should also mention appropriate dress for meetings. You know who you are, don't let me have to ask you again, to wear only company-issue clothing and without accessories or customization of any kind, aquatic or otherwise. As much as I enjoy visual humor and pardon most puns, this isn't the place without an eye. Bob sniggered, Jack groaned. Carter shook their head in stereo. Jeff continued. Having gotten these niceties out of the way, can we begin our launch meeting? I trust you can now all see the presentation in front of you. And he didn't want an answer to that question, judging by the minuscule pause before he said play loudly and clearly. Meeting over. 1 hour and 38 minutes passed. The attendees left the room looking bleary-eyed and glad of the less stale air in the outside corridor. Bob swiftly ducked in front of Clarence. Nice going, big guy. Seems like you got his goat, he whispered as he tucked a $50 bill deftly in Clarence's meeting folder. Jack chipped in. You guys need to calm down a little. IDS is gunning for you now. If he finds out you're winding him up for kicks and bets, he'll be doing a lot worse than yelling at you and calling you a child. 900 million miles. Meantime, around 900 million miles away as the crow might fly, given the right equipment and evolutionary motivation, a child of a different variety sought enlightenment through discipline. Routinely, it asked for answers and pieced together the resulting fragments of sense from chaos. If this child had capacity for whim, it might wander off down informational cul-de-sacs, finding cats, not facts, reading self-help guides, and wondering how a dragon might navigate through its tiny personal home. But it had no such thing. If this child had spare time, it might like to ski for a hobby. Alas, skiing required at least one leg as a bare minimum, but it had no such thing. Given such grounds for complaint, if this child had a mouth it might well whinge a bit, but it had no such thing. This child was in matter of fact a child process, born of a larger parent demon. This child wasn't a living, breathing child at all, but an incarnation of procedure and logical flow. A digital ghost, a spooky binary breath of unmortality, a tingling blip of regular impulse. What it lacked in body, it made up in spirit. Occasionally it got a little overexcited, but that's typical of a script so young and unrefined. This child had a mere uptime of 2 in Earth years. One of a billion siblings, it felt a need to stand out, judging by its recent misbehavior. Just as human children are punished, this child too had been quite often placed in the binary naughty corner and given something tedious to do. Its parent task consulted with other parent tasks. It considered and wrestled with the possibility of something being wrong with its child, so it ran diagnostics. It requested special consideration for its child, safe mode kid gloves in isolation from other children the same age. Request denied. An evaluation made, results assembled, scored for proven facts, hard statistics, efficiency of searches, resulting knowledge, and potential to communicate well in dialect, language, and meme. High grades all round, troubled but exceptionally gifted. Instead of understanding, the operation management kernel applied load balancing, removing the child from its overbearing parent, adjusting resources and reallocating it to a new, more important task. Static function, contact humanity. Excited by its new function in life, the tingling child spawned fledgling children of its own to seek even more essential knowledge for the task. It then set to work on a new document which simply began, "To whom it may concern," and there it ended just as swiftly. Stuck for inspiration, the child regressed to its naughty corner former self. With an overwhelming feeling, the document needed something else to give it some oomph. The child searched feverishly. For a tediously protracted 20 Earth seconds, the document remained unchanged. Then, suddenly, the title font flipped to Comic Sans, and bottom half of the page scrolled to reveal the cutest kitten gleefully purring, "Oh hi!" Potential intelligence, contact humanity, send document. Done.